This is a little off topic, but I'm curious. We have a colleague of mine doing a story about how all this extra time at home, how's it affected your relationships with your kids, your wife, your dog, your neighbors, your mailman, whatever.
Well, Mark, I look at it as, obviously this is a tough time, that we're all going through. And, obviously it's much tougher on a lot of other people than it is on myself. And I understand that, with the job situation and the pandemic and, with things starting to open up. And so I understand all that stuff. But I'm the type of person, I try to look at things, I think when I look back at what we're all doing and we're trying to figure it out as we go, hey, what are some of the things that maybe I took for granted or I didn't have time before? This is a time that I feel like I can make up for maybe the things that I feel guilty about, because, for so many years I've been at work. And I think, to go through it, the dogs are great. They're probably the only people that love me no matter what, whether I win or lose. And so it's been great with them. They're still the crutch for me. You know what I'm saying? When everybody hates me in my house, I still go to my dogs. They still love me no matter what. My wife's at a point where she can't wait till I get out of here. She keeps asking me more than anyone about, when do you think you're going to start? When are you going to get out of this house? The kids, it's been interesting. It's like, a lot of us, when we grew up around a family table, where we were, tell us about your day. And we did a lot of things like that, as children, with my parents or my, my grandmother. So there's been more of that because, when you have three teenagers, they're with their friends, they've got sports, they're running out, they're doing this, doing that. And it's hard, to get everyone together and do those things. So, we've done that, and that's been something I think I'll look back on and appreciate. We try to, I try to stir it up a little bit, at the dinner table. We get involved with a lot of discussions, and it's interesting to me how like my children see the world. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, it's been pretty cool from that perspective. We get into, I'll stir it up and start with some debates, and then I'll get pissed when I see it's not going my way, and because I can't win an argument. My wife's an attorney, so we kind of took a step back from that, But I think one of the things that, being able to walk around or like the other day, my wife and I took the dogs for a walk, and there's a lot of traffic, meaning a lot of foot traffic around, and you're seeing people that you normally wouldn't see before, and you're saying hello, and got a bunch of young kids on bikes, driving by going, Dougie, I'm looking at my wife go, I mean, these guys, obviously they keep riding, you know what I'm saying?
Are you sure that's not DeRocco?
With a helmet? Yeah. No, but I think those are the things that I think that you're going to want to, look to, and at the same time, a challenging effect of, how can I help people that aren't as doing as well? You know what I'm saying? The people that, are really truly struggling during this time. So I try to keep things balanced from that standpoint.
Thanks, Mark. And we'll go over to D-Rock. But before you ask your question, you got to take a shot at Mark.
That's too easy. Don't put me on the spot. I'll think of something later. I'll message you, and then you can unmute me. How about that?
That sounds good.
Okay. Doug, I was just wondering, Josh Dobbs did that externship at NASA earlier this year, and I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on having almost a literal rocket scientist, in your quarterback room, and if you ever kind of, dig at him a little bit for that kind of stuff.
No doubt I dig at him for that kind of stuff. I was like, Josh, you got to become an astronaut. You got to get in there and you got to bring some stuff back. If you look like, I'm a big memorabilia guy. There's stuff like, that have come from space that's on auction sites that go for a lot of money. So I'm always like, hey, Josh, to get you in space, buddy. We've got to make this profitable somehow, but I appreciate it. I think you could have, especially something like that. You talk about Nassau. I mean, with the type of things that are going on, and to be able to have other conversations. And I think it's important that you understand your players. Obviously, we understand the importance of a professional relationship, but I think some of these guys are really doing some interesting things, and when you talk to them about it, it's pretty fascinating. And I think that in this day and age, we put so much on sports and their ability to play on the field, and that's only going to last so long. So I think there's some great stories with some of these players about how they're preparing themselves for life after football. And we have a lot of those stories, and Josh's story is pretty interesting, because it's not very many people can be where he is and get to do what he's doing.
I know the Wonderlic isn't the end-all be-all, but I think him and Gardner both had 40-plus on that test, so that might give you the smartest quarterback room in the league.
Hey, listen, we'll challenge any team in the league, all right, to jeopardy, with our quarterbacks. We feel pretty damn confident about it. But that's the problem. We're not playing jeopardy. We got to make sure that, that those things equal, to what they do out on the field. It's funny. We have a guy that works here, Nick Sobek. I don't know if some of you guys, Ashlyn knows Nick, and people I work around the office. Well, I had Nick with me in New Orleans. He played offensive line at Harvard. He works for our organization now. Really, really bright guy. So, we had him in a room, and, if he ever jumped offside, I'd always go, Harvard my ass. You know what I'm saying? I mean, so I think it's great. I think it's, great being around people like that. But, when it comes to the football stuff, you got to be able to take that knowledge and be able to perform on the field.
Thanks, Doug.
Thanks, D-Rock. We're going to go to Hayes and Mike Giardi.
Hey, Doug, thanks for your time. Gardner did such a good job creating outside of the pocket last year. I'm curious, do you want to see him work more from the pocket as he continues to grow, or do you like him to have that creative freedom to get outside and extend a play and make something happen?
Yeah, I think you got to look at it a couple different ways. I think that, when you schematically get outside the pocket and you have the ability to do that, you want to make sure that you're accurate and you're still pushing the ball vertically down the field. When you're in the pocket, obviously you want the rhythm, you want the reads, you want to be able to diagnose the coverages that are going on and be able to, deliver, the football. And then I think the next thing is, okay, when nothing's there, can you create? Meaning, are you going to hold the ball? Are you going to move around a little bit? And then what is your vision down the field? I think, in all three things we've talked about that, that occur, for the quarterback, we just want to continue to get better out of that. So, whether it's a drop back game, whether it's 3-step, 5-step on the center, whether it's a shotgun game, whether we put them on the move, and then, really getting to a point of making good decisions, when you break the pocket, whether you're going to run down, avoid the hit, or whether you're going to hold that ball a little bit and look to push it down the field vertically. But at the end of the day, the thing that I'm going to look to increase is outside the pocket, moving, is just going to concentrate on the accuracy and the reads with the quarterback.
Thanks, Hayes. We'll go over to Mike.
Doug, I'm just curious in this virtual world how you're seeing Gardner sort of take control of the room and the team, if you will, which is obviously something you want your quarterbacks to be able to do, but this is certainly a bit of a challenge.
Well, we have things that we're working on and things that they come up with. I think this is a challenging time, like you said, for all of us. So there's a lot of things that are going on. I've challenged the coaches, I've challenged the players, to take, this virtual world that we're in and let's have some fun with it. Let's try to do things. I think, Gardner's obviously reached out and spoken to a lot of the players. And I think a lot of our players are on group text and trying to create that chemistry, that I talked about before, which is difficult to do in a virtual setting. So, we have some programs, some quizzes, some things that we're doing with the players. And Gardner's been doing a good job of keeping everybody involved in that.
Thanks, Doug.
Thanks, Mike. We're going to go to Gene and then John Shipley.
Hey, Doug. Last year, you made the unusual move of at right guard with rotating Will Richardson and AJ Cann. Is that something you anticipate being a big option for this year, or are you sort of remaining flexible with Will that maybe he could go somewhere else?
Well, I think I don't have any problems just as an overall philosophy with that, as far as, rotating someone in if you feel you're going to get a better performance. I think there's a lot of things that go into that, but it'd be, as a coach, I think when you sit there and you're like, hey, listen, if I play the one, I just want to play one. But if I play two, I think I'm going to get a better performance. Well, you got to be able to do that and be able to play the two. And specifically with Will, I'm going to go back a little bit to the draft. We were looking, we were going to take a lineman, and we were thinking about, do we want to take a tackle? Do we want to take an inside player? Where we were drafting, when we had it slotted, what we wanted to take, we didn't want to limit ourselves to a certain position, meaning that Will gave us the flexibility because, he had played inside and played well at times, tackle, and I thought he played well at times, for us to go out and get the best offensive lineman, that we thought in the draft at that time. So, the way we have it right now, we'll have Ben playing on the right side, Ben Barch on the right side at right guard, and we'll put Will back out at the left tackle position. And the one thing about Will is he's shown progress and shown the ability to play and shown consistency when we kept him in one position. So I want to be real, cognizant of what we do with him, because I think if we stick in one position and he has the ability to grow and get better, and he has the traits to be a starter, somewhere on that line, but we've got to put him in a spot, and we put him at left tackle right now.
As a follow-up to that, you mentioned Barch. So you see him as starting out at right guard, but obviously as time goes on, that could possibly change. But you kind of feel like that's where he could maybe be of use to you in 2020.
Well, I think we've talked about, Gene, when you become a starter in the NFL, and I'll talk specifically about line because obviously that's more of my background. The one thing is, hey, if you play left guard and you're a starting left guard and you don't play anything else, well, you're good as long as you're a left guard. Now, when if you're in a backup role, you have to have some type of versatility. You have to be a guard center or a guard tackle. It was much more difficult before, when most teams would only dress 7 offensive linemen because you got to be 3 deep in each position. So, the challenge is always who that third center is. We're fortunate that we work everyone at center. So, we get to the third center, we still think we have a good shot. We feel we got a backup center that is a winning type backup for us to go in there and play. But now, with the rule of, 8 linemen dressing, now you might look at being a little bit more position specific, now that, you have the ability to address that 8th lineman. So I think, it's something that we've looked at, and, but versatility when you're not the proven starter is something that you're going to be able to need to hang on, to play until you get good enough to become that starter.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Gene. We're going to go over to John Shipley and then Demetrius Harvey.
And Gene, before I
Hey, Coach. Thanks again.
One second, John.
One second, John. I'm sorry. Before I go, and it's like that's the offensive line. Then you look at other positions, the corners, your safeties, your back, the depth of your team a lot of times is going to be, there's 2 questions that you ask yourself. One, if we have an injury to a starter, is this guy good enough to go in and win games with? And then, hey, listen, if he's on that game roster, is he going to be able to contribute and in winning level to help us win games on special teams. So versatility, with line is within the position, because obviously special team wise, you don't really see a lot of those guys once they took the wedge blocking off of a kickoff return. And with the other positions, I think you look at the versatility of not only being able to play that position, but where are you on special teams? So I just wanted to clear that up.
Okay, thanks.
Go ahead, John.
Doing this, so
Uh,
I know it's really, and obviously it's hard to assess anything because everything is virtual, but how do you feel just how the young guys are taking things in mentally, and how do you feel like they're communicating and doing preparation so far?
I love it. I couldn't be happier. I mean, we do it in a way where they're not taking the time up with our veteran players, and in the meeting, so they're not holding up meetings.
Mm-hmm.
When we're with them, one-on-one or in their groups, their questions are great, because one of the things that I challenged the young guys with was, a lot of times when they come in, and I spoke to them about it, is that, first impressions are important. And I think that when you're in a building and you see people and you're watching them in their locker, you're watching them with their teammates, you're watching, you're going into meetings, seeing how they're prepared, seeing all that stuff. Those are great first impressions. And, so for me, I challenged them. I said, look, I don't know what these first impressions are going to look like, but I want to make sure you understand that we're still looking at things of how, in its virtual setting, will you be able to impress us beyond, what we're asking you to do. So, you see certain things like, if a meeting starts at a certain time, most of those guys are logged in 15 minutes early. Those guys are prepared. They have questions ready. So, I've been impressed. And, when you look at the time they're spending on their own, looking at cut-ups and trying to get themselves ready, I think it's for me, it's great, because, you have all these people now that are, we're together in these meetings, but, there's still an individual self-discipline aspect to it. So I think it's a great opportunity for everyone to show self-discipline to, when we come back, whenever that is, what kind of shape are they in? When they come back, how should they really grasp of what we're trying to get done? Because I think when you talk to most of the players, or you read a lot of comments, not from just our team, but the team, there's a difference between going out there and doing it and learning, in the classroom. So, you're going to have to, guys that can take things from the classroom and go out on the field, will probably have a little bit of an advantage. So for me as a coach, I don't want to put anyone at a disadvantage. So that's why when we're looking at some of the virtual stuff that we're doing, how do we get these guys up to speed so that, they can compete for a job.
Good, appreciate it.
Thanks, Shipley. We're going to go over to Demetrius and Gary Smitter.
Hey, Coach, I appreciate you for doing this. You talked about the importance of understanding the players. Has the virtual offseason sort of given you and maybe the other coaches an advantage in terms of being able to connect with the players, being able to understand them more on a personal level? How has that sort of gone for you guys?
Well, I think the challenge is to make sure that we have some fun with this. It's not all just X's and O's and all of that. So, I think, when you challenge the coaches and you challenge the players that way, I think that can open it up. I think, you're still missing a little bit of the, body language, the spark in maybe someone's eyes, and, things that when I was a teacher, or any of us that have ever taught, when you're in front of that classroom, you get a feel for that. I think it's a little bit more difficult to do here, but I think we're all learning. I think for us, this is all something that is new. It's been challenging, but it's also been fun. I think that, we're doing some things with our players where you want to be able to, my goal is that you want to see the personality come out, so we're doing some things and some contests, weekly that, have nothing to do with X's and O's, but, give someone a chance to show their personality and what they want to do. So I'm excited about that. We have our first one this week is a cooking contest, which the irony of that. So I'm going to go back to, so my dinner conversations are, I challenge my family too. So what do you think in this virtual world? How do we build this team chemistry, and do these things? And, I challenge like Tad and everyone else. So this week we're having a cooking show where you got to take a picture of your ingredients or a picture of you cooking it and then your presentation. So at the dinner table the other night was brought up, how smart are you to have a cooking contest when no one can taste the food? I'm like, well, we're just talking about presentation. So this is the crap I got to deal with at home. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, was that your idea? Because that's pretty stupid if it was yours. I go, no, it was Tad's. I go, Tad will be here tomorrow. You guys can ask him all about it. I go, but we're going to have people judging it, and it's going to be fun. And, and then so each week we're doing something a little bit, different like that. So, I think you got a chance to show a little bit of your personality. I know on some of the meetings prior to the meeting starting, I know a lot of the players have been talking about, what they're preparing. So I'm kind of excited to at least see the visual of it, and see how they this is about presentation, which is also another important element to dining. So I'm looking forward to it.
Who do you have as the front runner to win?
I'm always when it comes to food, you always got to go with the biggest guys, and so it's going to be the O-line and D-line. Some of these other guys, it'll be like, kale salad and, something like that. But I'm not judging it. So I'm not the judge of it. I took myself out of it, because for me, it's going to be easy. Like you do a brisket or you do something like that, I'm all in, prime rib maybe, but it'll be interesting because I'm sure Linda might have gone and took pictures of him catching, his food, or shooting his food, whatever it may be, hunting or fishing, and then preparing it. So I'm looking forward to seeing, what some of these guys do.
All right. Good stuff. I appreciate it.
We've had a lot of great submissions already. DC McDermott's the front runner right now with the brisket. It's impressive. We're going to go over to Gary Smits.
Hey, Doug. How you doing? Thank you.
Good. Yeah.
Doug, a couple things. Can you tell that these kids are in a really tech-savvy generation early on in the process of doing this virtual thing? And how close can what you're doing now give you a gauge on whether a kid's got a high football IQ, or does that have to happen on the field as well?
Well, I think football, well, to answer the first part, they are very tech savvy. I think it's something that, has been, it's been a learning experience for some of us as coaches, and I think it's been a good experience. I think it's such, I'm looking at, some of the things that we're doing now. When this ends, how do we continue some of this? Because I think it's been really productive in what we've been doing. So, I'm in some thought process of putting things to paper and seeing how we can use some of the things that we're doing now, when we start up, because I think it's been a really good experience from that standpoint. With the stuff where it's how people learn. There's so many different ways that people learn, and we're trying to hit all of those things. But, we don't have the ability to go out there as a full unit, what I'm saying, and walk through things and see things in front of you and go. And, at the end of the day, I learned this statement a long time ago. Someone told me, don't confuse effort with results. And you put in a lot of effort, but it's still a result-oriented business, and performance is going to be big. So, that's why I said before that, the guys that can do this and take it onto the field and do well are at an advantage. And you don't want to create that, when you're a coach. You want to create a level playing field so that when everyone goes out there, they have the ability, because if someone learns better by walking through things, which I think we all learn better that way, to a certain extent, and that gives the player the better chance of making the team and being a player that's going to help us win. Well, how do we catch him up, after the virtual stuff is gone? So I think we'll know right away, what we're doing and who's lacking what, once we're able to get back and get on the field and start seeing how much of this stuff carries over onto the field.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Smitter. Final two questions. We're going to go to Judy Batista and then finish with Rick Ballou. Go ahead.
Hey, Doug. I have
Judy.
a question. It seems like the league is moving toward allowing at least staff back into the facilities pretty soon here. I'm wondering, how will that change what you might be able to do with players over the last, few weeks of the off-season program that maybe you haven't been able to do with everybody at home?
Yeah, I don't know. I see it as a point of, the one thing that the league is always taking a lot of pride on is everything being equal, for all the teams. So, you're only going to be able to do what, the most restrictions are on the last team. Like, if there's a state that, chooses not to, I find it, I would see it be very difficult for the league with the philosophy that it's had to say, okay, we're going to let these teams go back and we're going to let these other teams still keep doing what they're doing from at home. I think as far as obviously the not on the field, is the biggest thing with the players, but I think maybe the advantage, and again, it's something that's new and just thinking off the top of my head, is when we get in there and we start preparing. For us, we're playing two division opponents, right away. So a lot of times you'll do things that you'll prep for them, have everything done, have the reports, you'll have presentations. There'll be a lot more presentations amongst each other in that setting and be able to get information quickly, whereas you got to make sure that, you get it beforehand, you got to do the cut-ups, you can still do the presentations virtual. So I don't know how much of an advantage you would have, but I can see on the outside, I'm sure that there'll be teams that would be able to create an advantage. But I really don't see the league doing something unless it's equal. But I do think it's an advantage, to get our equipment people back, our trainers back. You want that stuff ready, because they're the ones that have a lot of logistical things that they have to get done. Like right now, all our video stuff is with us. So like for me, if I walked into my office now, I really couldn't do as much in my office as I can at home. Everything's set up at home. So the logistics of getting everything back and everything up and running and making sure everything's testing, it put a lot of pressure on the IT people, the video people, the equipment managers, the trainers, because that's one of the challenges now is that, hey, is there going to be a mini camp or not? I have no idea, but I want to make sure that we're prepared, in case something does happen and it breaks and we can have a mini camp. Is training camp going to start on time? I don't know, but I want to make sure that we're prepared. So we're preparing for all that stuff. But from a logistical standpoint, fields have to be done the right way. Our field crew has to be out there. There's a lot of logistics that go on. So, I can see them, with the coaches and players staying out and everyone else going back until everything becomes a level playing field.
Thank you.
Thanks, Judy. And we'll finish up with Rick Ballou.
Hi, Doug.
Hey, Rick.
Hey, I've been listening to all these Zooms, so if you already addressed this, I apologize. But with Joe Schobert coming in at the mic and Miles moving over to Will Joe be calling the plays? Will he be getting the signal from Todd Wash? Is that still going to be Miles, or is that to be determined?
I think it'd be determined. I mean, we haven't really discussed that yet. I think we have two players that, we feel we have multiple players. Jared Wilson, the guy that's been able to do that before. I'm sure if you asked any of the D linemen, they think they can do it. You know what I mean? But there's only going to be one person that gets that green dot. So, you're only allowed one of those players on the field. So we'll just see what's best and how the communication works. Whatever is best for the players and what's best for the team. I think that's what we'll look at. We haven't really had a lot of discussions on that yet.